yesterday when he did confirm that the bike was a little bit different. Don't you love it when there's two versions of a story that are quite contradicting, but never mind. And yeah, he's just really happy to be here. He felt comfortable. I've got to say, yeah, we're in punishing conditions. Manu Gonzalez seemed like he could have done 40 laps in them. He was really, really happy with his pace, with how he's been able to cope with the conditions, to handle himself in these conditions. So yeah, very, very impressive stuff from Manu Gonzalez, who is doing a practice start coming out of the pit lane already.
Is that perhaps a recognition that his start cost him so badly in Japan a week ago, when after telling Jack Appleyard he was going to use his head, he did anything but in the race. Once he had that poor start, of course, rode through Celestino Vietti and picked up a long lap penalty in the race. And perhaps one thing Manu Gonzalez also was looking to do, of course, was to avoid a repeat of Japan last weekend, when he was so keen to start the qualifying session. He jumped a red light. Yeah,
he jumped a red light. He was a bit keen there, wasn't he? And then, yeah, in the race, well, he used his head, just not very well. Perhaps that would be a fair way to put it. But Manu Gonzalez has got absolutely brilliant pace. And like you say, pole position he's one of the favourites. It's very much like we saw over in MotoGP with the rider who has dominated things so far this weekend. Not going to give away who it was and who ended up on pole. But, sparks flying, only on lap one.
Well, Diogo Moreira certainly giving it plenty. Special helmet, as you can see, from Moreira this weekend. That is a nod to his maiden Grand Prix victory, which came here on a Moto3 bike a couple of years ago. Here comes the Brazilian once again, certainly making all sorts of shapes on board that Calyx machine. This racetrack still rather treacherous in this qualifying session, even if the pace is very hot. Clearly, one small mistake, that's all it takes to lose everything in this qualifying session.
I'll say the fanny pan is very low to the ground on old Diogo Moreira's there. I'm just wondering if maybe that moment's just knocked it out a little bit, because it seems like it's about to grind along the floor at any given moment. This is Danny Munoz. Spoke with him yesterday. He's up inside the top three on Friday afternoon. Where does it put him now? It puts him second straight away. He's the second one with a timed lap. Barry Baltus at the moment, 33. You can count your chickens if you think that's going to be enough. Not quite. We're going to have to get a little bit lower than that. 32.8 straight in for Holgado. David Alonso, 32.499. Well, that's
all-time lap record for David Alonso straight out of the gates in this Q2 session. Gonzalez did a 32.5 earlier on today. Alonso's cracked that qualifying nut, hasn't he?
And I was just about to say, that's impressive given the size of the crash he had earlier on today as well, over at turn 5, I think it was, downhill, where he's about to come to now, as Philippe Salat straight back in, no time set. This is a bit of a disaster. 11 minutes and counting on the clock, and Gilles Bigot takes his eyebrows for a walk across his forehead, and I don't think Philippe Salat was too, how can we say, diplomatic with what his feedback was just there.
Well, Salat, who's had his issues this weekend, as we mentioned, in qualifying one from a technical point of view. And Salat straight up pit lane at the end of that first run without setting the representative time. We're waiting then for Manu Gonzalez to set his first lap of the session. He's currently on his out lap, having belatedly joined the action. But, well, life must be pretty good if you're an Aspar team manager right now. Of course, with Max Quiles performing so well in Moto3, because they were both on the front row last weekend before Holgado made an escape act in the Grand Prix to take victory by a comfortable distance. David Alonso just missing out on the podium by finishing in 4th place. Holgado currently on course to potentially make it, and Aspar 1-2 on the grid.
Yeah, this is looking good. Coming down into turn 17, if he holds this, it is going to be that Aspar 1-2. Both of them are already on that front row. Holgado, yeah, goes second. That's very good indeed. 14 thousandths of a second quicker than Marcos Ramirez, who's currently on that front row. Diogo Moreira has gone 4th. Now, that is very interesting for Moreira. 32.781. Let's see what Gonzalez has got. A 32.781 is what he's going to be looking to beat, even if Alonso's pole time is a bit faster. But about the two title contenders, you've got to beat your rival.
That would equal Ramirez's best qualifying of 2025. Qualified 3rd in Argentina, and most recently at Brno, when you might recall he had to serve 2 long lap penalties. Yellow flags in the first sector, which will be right ahead of Manu Gonzalez, I suspect. He's just started his first time lap, and here come the yellows into turn 2, brought out by Zonta van den Gorberg.
That's a disaster for Zonta van den Gorberg, and I'll tell you what, bigger disaster you could say for Manu Gonzalez, because that is going to be that lap scrubbed off, I'm fairly sure. Then again, I think we had a similar situation last week, and we were wrong, so let's not count our chickens, do you? Oh, let's count them now, because that is our lap cancelled due to yellow flags for Manu Gas, so he's going to have to go again. 9 minutes on the clock.
Even been a broken clock is right twice a day, as they say. Wind, I think, is picking up as Elliot's just informed us down there in pit lane, which could potentially have played a role in Van den Gorbo's crash. So discount this current lap then for Manu Gonzalez, who, I guess, we can never know, we can never predict the future as what's going to happen in that qualifying session, but by going out in that second wave of riders, he put himself right behind the yellow flag zone.
He did indeed, and unfortunately that is exactly what I was saying earlier on in Moto3 Q1. I don't understand why you just don't go out straight away with the main group, because then at least everyone's in the same boat there. So unfortunately for MellanaGP, he's going to have to go again, and don't forget, if the wind has picked up, that is going to be a factor that you're only going to arrive to when it's already on you, it's already under you.
How's this for consistency? Danny Holgado has just done a 1:32.671 on consecutive laps. He's matched to the thousandth of a second the lap he did once before. I think we can say Danny Holgado could do 1:32.6s for fun.
Yeah, that would match his race pace for sure that we've seen in recent rounds. He's metronomic out there. Ever since that first win in Barcelona, he was quite strong as well for the podium in Misano. And last weekend, he checked right out. Jake Dixon might have had an answer a bit later on. Unfortunately, Dixon gave himself too much work to do. We're just on Jake Dixon, down in 12th at the moment. So we get a replay, down towards turn 1, hard braking area, banging through the gearbox, all the way down to second gear. David Alonso, well, he's not in second gear, is he? He's absolutely flying full throttle, P1 and provisional pole as we tick down towards 7 minutes on the clock to go.
It's been one of the big stories of Alonso's season, how he's not been able to maximise qualifying. I think we can safely say that he's figured that out now. Front row start, of course, for the first time in Moto2 last weekend in Japan. He's currently on course for a first Moto2 pole of the season. Only 6 riders have had a pole position so far this season. Manu Gonzalez has had the bulk of them, 7 in total. Moreira has had 4. Dixon and Holgado 2 apiece, and Aaron Canet, of course, not in this session, and Barry Baltus, the 2 Fanti teammates, have had 1 apiece. Alonso, Holgado, Ramirez, your front row as it stands. Gonzalez looks set to get in amongst that now with his first representative lap time on the board. It's Moreira, Guevara and Sasaki currently on your second row. We'll follow the 18, who's leading the 17. It's Gonzalez and Munoz, a line astern coming out of the final corner. This should be the front row for Manu Gonzalez if he comes across line. He splits the Aspar duo now, and at the moment, albeit in a different order, it's the same front row as a week ago. Just
while we have got a majority of riders in the pits, Elle was quite right. The wind has picked up, and it is bringing with it the greatest big, dirty black cloud right across this track, and it is sailing in, so we might get away with this, but that's something to keep an eye on for later on in the day. We've got thunderstorms coming tomorrow. Indonesia does throw about everything at us, doesn't it? Heat and thunderstorms, so yeah, keep an eye on that. You never know, when it does start raining here, it normally does come down pretty hard and intense.
Yeah, to quote the great Murray Walker, it doesn't come down by the bucketful, but by the oceanful here in Mandalika, so hopefully those clouds stay away from us as Chilitinu Vietti has a good look at the screens and sees Manu Gonzalez, who of course he saw a little bit too much of in the Japanese Grand Prix a week ago. Gonzalez is going to be interesting here whether he comes up pit lane at the end of this lap, because if he doesn't, then he's clearly doing this Moto2 qualifying session on just 1 tyre.
Yeah, Diego Moreira though, in the middle of that second row, it might not be ideal for him, but it ain't the end of the world at the moment. A 10th and a half off what Manu Gonzalez has been able to do. Gonzalez isn't going to improve this lap around unless he has a mighty final sector. I think he was a bit wide through 13 and 14 there. Danny Munoz, he's another one who's just behind. He's not going to improve either. Alex Escreege is just off out shots. He's just about to come through it now at the bottom. He's following Munoz, but none of these riders at the moment are going to improve. I think, was that who was that slotting in there? Was it Arenas perhaps? Yes, it was. Alberto Arenas just slotted in right in front of Danny Munoz, who had the perfect reference in MellanaGP, but with 5 minutes to go, he's actually going to get a face full of Grassini Moto2 machinery.
So Gonzalez did carry on round, so he's clearly not going to come up pit lane. If he pits at the end of this lap, then he's surely not going to have time to get that bike turned around and out there for 1 more qualifying run. So Gonzalez is doing this qualifying session on 1 tyre. In fairness, yesterday in practice, he didn't improve at the end of the session on a brand new tyre. His best lap of practice yesterday afternoon, which was just inside the 132s, 32.996, did come on 12-13 lap old tyres. So perhaps Manu Gonzalez has such confidence in his race pace that he's prepared to qualify in race spec.
Let's see what David Alonso can do. He had a bit of a moment there. The times are not coming to them at all. I just wonder if that wind has got up just a little bit too much for them, because we're right by the ocean here. We're right on the Indian Ocean, so we do get a little bit of a sea breeze anyway at some points of the track, but not normally a gusting wind. So let's just see if anyone's able to go any quicker than what they've managed so far. Gonzalez is certainly looking to, and he's in touch with the third sector.
Yeah, Gonzalez, who's now done, what has he done? He's done 5 laps in this qualifying session, so he's now 6 laps in to this particular set of tyres and just continuing to get faster and faster. Even if it doesn't bring in pole position, it's clear that Manu Gonzalez has race pace to burn in tomorrow's Indonesian Grand Prix. Alonso unable to better his 32.499 all-time lap record. Is that about to be snatched back again by Manu Gonzalez? Here comes the World Championship leader. Across the line he goes. He's within 1/10 of a second. He's getting closer and closer to Alonso.
He's going closer and closer, isn't he? And you got a feeling that another lap, he's going to have another 2 laps yet. Will he get 3? I think he will get 3, yeah. Shall we go down to pit lane now? What you got?
Yeah, just that team boss Jürgen Ling. If that is the tactic, and it absolutely is, Manu, before the session, wanted to just go 1 set of tyres. That is the clear strategy, and we saw, as you say, in practice it worked, and it's clearly working now.
Certainly is, as he comes through the first sector, although he's perhaps not in touch on this lap to take the fastest ever Moto2 lap of this Mandalika circuit to deny David Alonso from here. Here comes the number 80, who I guess just to underline just how special that was. Alonso hasn't got anywhere close to it since, hasn't been back in the 32s for quite some time as Alonso. Look at the second sector of Gonzalez as he pulls 1/10 of a second back. They'll be sitting a little less comfortably at Aspar now.
Tell you what, you can see how windy it's got. Our cameras buffering around all over the place at turn 13, and it has gone very grey out there at the moment. So, like I say, we're going to get this one through and done, but I reckon that getting out and getting that banker sorted, that was the right strategy here, whilst the conditions were at their optimum.
Well, the MotoGP riders, with the sprint 45 minutes or so away, will be looking rather nervously over to this final corner to see that great crowd, because that's where the weather is coming from, as the Indonesian flag outside our commentary window is certainly swaying over to our left. Another 33.2 for Alonso. Can Gonzalez crack it this time as he comes out of the final corner? He's going to have to go some to pull back 1/10 in that final sector. He can't do it. Arenas does move up the order. He now goes up into 7th place, just ahead of Iimu Sasaki.
This is important for Philip Salac, right on cue. We get the graphic, 8/10 off, but this is going to be his first lap in this session. So Philip Salac needs this one to stay clean. He doesn't need any dramas ahead of him. Barry Baltas has just come across the line on a 32.9, and that is just fractionally quicker than what Alberto Arenas has just done. Dixon, this puts him up to the 3rd row. That'll do for him.
Guevara to 2nd place. Look at that. A 32.5 for Ethan Guevara. So the 2024 Moto3 World Champion now leads the 2022 Moto3 World Champion. That, as it stands, is a first Moto2 front row for Ethan Guevara.
It really is, and that is a very respectable lap time. He's right in touch as well, 17 thousandths of a second. I tell you what, let's take him through the first sector. What's he got through here? Ethan Guevara. Well, this could be something special. He's nothing lit up through the first sector at the moment. He's in touch, like 4 thousandths of a second in touch. It ain't a personal best, but 4 thousandths of a second is 4 thousandths of a second.
He was clearly rapid through that final sector. He pulled back 1/10.5 and very nearly got ahead of Alonso in that final sector, who is not really defending that pole position. It's more just a case of hoping that no one beats him at this stage. Manu Gonzalez is not going to beat him, I don't think, on this lap, although we have been wrong before. Could potentially, well, we'll get one more lap at this. Moreira, a rider to watch. He's through the 3rd sector. Gonzalez about to start his final flying lap, but he's not going to start it in the optimum way, is he?
No, he's cost himself a load of time. Look at Diogo Moreira. Talking of costing yourself time, Manu Gonzalez, that might have just cost him a chance to improve. Diogo Moreira is right on the money here to dethrone Manu Gonzalez, not just from the pole position fight, from the front row altogether. He's through 16. Keep it clean.
And Guevara's also setting personal best, and of course we know how good he was in the final sector last time around, so this is all going to change. Checkered flag is out, and talk about standing up to be counted with the World Championship on the line. 1:32.341. Diogo Moreira snatches pole position.
Amazing. What about that? He has not just snatched it, he has demolished David Alonso's time by over 1/10.5. Take a bow, Diogo.
And Gonzalez doesn't look like he's going to beat it either, of course, with that poor run onto the straight to start his final lap. Manu Gonzalez has been dumped off the front row of the grid And as Aaron Canet fluffs his lines from a World Championship point of view, Gonzalez has rolled off. What a turn-up for the books for the Brazilian. It is pole position number 5 of the season for the brilliant Brazilian Diogo Moreira.
This is down at turn 10. This is where we saw Gonzalez coming back on the track, and yeah, he's just gone in there too deep. Had to pick it up. Good, did the right thing. Didn't try and make the apex. The lap had already gone anyway. But Manu Gonzalez, it's not a disaster, but there is life in this Moto2 title fight just yet.
And he's going to have to overtake Diogo Moreira in tomorrow's Indonesian Grand Prix, and if we know one thing from Moto2 this season is that this young man is not an easy rider to pass.
Yeah, he'll make it hard. He might have not won all of his battles, but he's given him a pretty good account of himself. And Diogo Moreira, I tell you what, just as Aaron Canet has fallen by the wayside in the title fight, Diogo Moreira has picked up the baton, taken an all-time lap record pole today, and he's looking like he could well just be a threat tomorrow and do some damage with 4 rounds to go in this title fight.
And his love affair with the Mandalika circuit continues. First ever Grand Prix victory in Moto3 came here 2 years ago, and a potentially crucial for the World Championship pole position here in Moto2. Career best qualifying for David Alonso, who qualified 3rd a week ago in Japan. It's 2nd here today. Guevara also on the front row of the grid for the first time. 3 very happy riders heading for Parc Ferme shortly.
Tell you what, South America won too as well. That'll sell some tickets for our trip to Brazil next year at the start of the season. Colombia in 2nd, Ethan Guevara for Spain there in 3rd. But Brazil on top with Moreira. That's fantastic from the number 10.
Gonzalez, Holgado, Ramirez on the 2nd row of the grid, 4th, 5th and 6th. As Danny Holgado now makes his way into the Aspar box. He'll certainly challenge for the podium from there, don't worry about that. Via a fine 7th for Red Bull KTM Ayo. Jake Dixon only 8th for Mark VDS ahead of Barry Baltus and Albert Arenas. Ortola and Arbolino complete your 4th row. Sasaki 13th ahead of Vietti and Van den Gorburg, who we saw crash at the start of the session. A Screech 16th ahead of Danny Munoz. And of course, Philip Salach with his various issues in that qualifying session. He will start P18.
And I'll tell you what is interesting, Lewis, if you look right down the field to Adrian Huertas, he's down there in 19th, 33.1 was what he was able to do. That would have actually been good enough to put himself top 16 in this session. So definitely, for some reason in that session, conditions just were not playing ball. Maybe just for a few riders, a little bit too windy. And the best, the cream always rises.
Well, congratulations to this young man, Ethan Guevara. 3 fingers up to the camera, first front row in Moto2 for him, who, of course, we remind you, started the afternoon in qualifying 1. Boy, has he been rewarded on this Saturday afternoon. And we know that Guevara is a lightning fast starter, so don't be at all surprised if he gets through the first corner first tomorrow afternoon. David Alonso, well, we've certainly seen him get a grip of his qualifying in recent times. Back-to-back front rows for the first time for the Colombian. It looked for all the world for so long in that qualifying session that it was going to be pole for the first time this year for David Alonso, but we hadn't bargained for some Brazilian brilliance from Diogo Moreira.
We hadn't at all, and to take pole by 1/10 and a half as well, that's a decent enough margin. Guevara in 3rd, less than 2/10 off, but I'll tell you what, you'd have had good odds on Manu Gonzalez being a 1/4 of a second off pole after yesterday's form.
Well, he clearly played the long-term game, didn't he, by going out and doing the qualifying session on 1 tyre. He matched to within 1,000th of a second the lap time he did this morning, did a 32.597 in free practice 2, a 32.598 in qualifying this afternoon. No one's got any concerns about Manu Gonzalez's race pace, but when Manu Gonzalez has had to do some overtaking, sometimes he does trip up in these Moto2 battles. So a fascinating qualifying session completed, which sets the stage for tomorrow. Diogo Moreira then starts from pole position for the 5th time this season. David Alonso and Ethan Guevara will join him on the front row tomorrow. Manu Gonzalez, the World Championship leader, lines up 4th ahead of Danny Holgado and Marcos Ramirez. Colin Via, Jake Dixon and Barry Baltus on row 3. Albert Arenas, Ivan Ortola and Tony Arbolino on row 4 from Sasaki, Vietti and Van den Gorburg. A stretch via Q1 to 16th ahead of Danny Munoz and Philip Salach. Adrian Huertas will line up 19th on the grid ahead of Joe Roberts and Aaron Canet, only P21. More damage done to his World Championship hopes. AGS next up ahead of Darren Binder, Alonso Lopez and Mario Aggi. Yuki Kuni, Unai Rantre and Jorge Navarro complete your grid of 28 for tomorrow's Moto2 Grand Prix of Indonesia. Let's head down then to Parc Ferme. What a qualifying session that was in the end. A spectacular Q2, which for so long looked like it was going to go the way of David Alonso. In the end, though, for the 5th time in 2025, it went the way of Diogo Moreira. He's with us.
Diogo, congratulations, a fantastic pole here in Mandalika, your 5th of the season, and is that the most important so far with the championship now entering its final stages? Talk us through that lap as well.
Yeah, I'm so happy. I think we make all the weekend really good, and also this qualifying I think it will be important for tomorrow on the race, so I'm very happy. Now we need to push in the race tomorrow, and let's see. But yeah, the job for today is done.
Good job, good luck for tomorrow.
Thank you.
And a job very, very well done for Diogo Moreira. His 5th pole position of the season in Moto2, and from a World Championship battle this weekend, Kiko, which looked like it was all going Manu Gonzalez's way, Moreira's turned the tables today.
Moreira has turned the tables, and I tell you what, sometimes you just need a session to go your way, and the momentum just starts to move over towards that corner. I've got to say, Diogo Moreira, impressive looking on to Sunday.
He takes pole position then for the Moto2 Grand Prix of Indonesia. Of course, we're just over half an hour away now from the Tissot sprint in MotoGP. We'll begin our countdown to the sprint very, very shortly. Here's Manu Gonzalez, who qualified in 4th place today. Yes, it's not the front row that he expected, it's not the pole position he expected, but I don't think he's going to be too concerned with what we saw in that qualifying session. The fact that he did that session on one set of tyres indicates his confidence.
Yeah, he also got through it unscathed. 4th isn't a disaster. He's fluffed his lines from pole before. He doesn't have to do it again.
Well, the standings, which Diogo Moreira won't complain about seeing twice, so let's show you them again. Moreira from Alonso and Guevara, Gonzalez, Holgado, Ramirez on the 2nd row of the grid, via Dixon Baltas, as mentioned, on row 3, from Alba Terrenas, Ivan Altola and Tony Arbolino. Anyone getting a sense of deja vu here in the commentary box? Sasaki Vietti and Van den Gorberg on row 5, ahead of Escridge, Munoz and Salach. And in case you didn't hear me first time, the big headline from a World Championship point of view is Aaron Canet qualifying down in 21st place and surely now out of World Championship contention. Guevara here on screen starts 3rd for tomorrow's Grand Prix of Indonesia. David Alonso starts 2nd, but your pole sitter for the Indonesian Grand Prix, number 5 of the season. High fives for Diogo Moreira. A tasty grade for the Moto2 Championship battle. Coming up next, we begin the countdown to the Tissot sprint in MotoGP.
See you there.
Circuit
lies next to the surface paradise of Kuta, which started as a sleepy seaside village before becoming one of Lombok's must-see spots. Who will be making big waves in the Tissot Sprint up next live? It's time for MotoGP. So the Mandalika circuit back on the calendar, or first on the calendar in 2022, was our first Indonesian Grand Prix in 25 years since the 1997 battle at Sentul. Couple of hours away from the capital city of Jakarta by flight, a short boat trip over to the nearby Bali. Sector 1 hard-braking into that first corner, hard-braking also as you start Sector 3 into turn 10. Turn 15 saw both factory Yamahas crash out in Q2 this morning, although still a very good day for Alex Rins. More on that coming up shortly. Overtaking hot spots, plenty of them around this circuit into 1 and into 10, 12 and 16. Also good places to make your moves here in Mandalika. This was Pecco Bagnaia on Frankie Morbidelli at turn 10 in the Grand Prix last year.